let the minutes reflect that the entire board is here, as well as Mr. Costello, and certainly we have a guest from the Dr. Howitt application that we have before us that we'll get to here in just a minute. We have the February 12th, 2014 minutes before us, and would entertain a motion of approval for those minutes.
I'll move.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, moved and second. Any discussion? All right, then the minutes will stand approved as written. Thank you. Monthly reports are all in for January, so we'll be looking at our February at our next work session as they come up. We have no public hearings this evening, and we have no guests on the agenda. Obviously, we do have a guest here with us, and we'll move right into our action items. And we have Bayview Landing subdivision. So, Kaz, your name is tagged on that, and you did do what the board had requested, to prepare a draft for us to give the board an opportunity to take a look at it. And I guess with that, I would give you an opportunity for any additional comments.
Thank you. At the last board meeting, you did direct Mark and I to prepare a letter, which we've done for you. It's a draft letter for your consideration. In addition to that, we'd also invited Dr. Howitt and Hans DeSelms back just to discuss the letter and discuss alternatives and where we're going to go from this point in time. And Dr. Howitt just got back from Florida, I think. And
He's in Florida.
Or he's in
now.
Florida.
I was just going to say,
Okay,
if
took
he's smart,
off.
he's still there, right?
That's right.
And in his stead, he brought his number 2 guy in, or his number 1 guy, I guess, Hans DeSelms, who's been with us since the beginning of the application. And I think, in looking at the letter and reviewing the last meeting, the board was concerned about the traffic issue, which we've all talked about for a number of times now. We've talked about density issues. We've talked about, and I think with respect to the traffic and the ingress and egress, the board's also concerned about the number of people that would be lined up, particularly in the morning peak periods, trying to get out of the site, making a left-hand turn into the city. If you're number 33 or 34 or 35, depending on who lives down there, it could, I think you expressed some concern that could be an issue that people would be very frustrated with after a period of time. So during the last week or so, I had a chance to talk to Dr. Howitt, and Dr. Howitt indicated to me that he would be more than willing to eliminate for the time being, until the mixed-use district was discussed by the committee and the staff. He would be willing to eliminate the proposal for the 69 units for the apartments in the LLDD district until such time as we could look at what's really appropriate. He's still interested in going to the board or a board for subdivision approval for the 33 lots, which is in the R120 zone, and as the board understands, that R120 zone would not be part of the mixed-use district. And I can't imagine the neighbors would be interested in having that be part of a mixed-use district if it was going from a single family into a combination of commercial and residential. That might be something that they'd be opposed to. So Dr. Howitt, recognizing that, was suggesting to me what the viability would be if he were to eliminate the apartment aspect of it and then just apply to the planning board under the requirements of 278. He understands he's allowed to have 33 single-family units on the site. His intent would be to have 33 single-family units in a townhouse setting, which is basically 278. He's not allowed to have more density than he's permitted under the 278 requirements. And I think Hans is here just to get a feel from the board as to how the board would think about that. Obviously, you would not be the board having jurisdiction over the application. And I was even thinking about how you might have jurisdiction over it based on the fact that you would have access through the LLDD district for any roadway improvements, but the roadway, as you know, is not a dedicated road. It's a private drive.
Right.
So in essence, you really almost don't have any jurisdiction in that situation. But I think this is where you are now at this point in time to determine what would be the next step.
Correct. Yeah. So we heard your concerns about the development as it was proposed, and particularly with respect to the traffic and the mixed use district. And as Jim said, we'd be willing to table the apartments in the LLD till such time as the board has, decided what they want to do in that district, but we'd like to go forward with the townhome development in the R120.
Hans, if you will, the 33 units, that's similar to the number of units that you'd originally planned for that site, if I recall correctly?
For that part of the site,
For
that's
that piece of
correct,
the site,
yes.
yeah, for the single
For
families.
that piece.
Sorry, I should have been a little clearer. And the question is that what is the acreage just of that, where that setting would take place? I know there's the line that you got the entire piece.
Yeah.
Line is divided, but I was just curious of what that.
I was trying to picture it on the map.
I apologize, I should have brought the map with me. I had it upstairs and I didn't bring it down.
I don't know the exact number, but it works out to something way over half an acre per unit.
For some reason, I thought you were
More
less than 2 units per acre, or something like.
That's with the 69 units on the, and the
Oh,
LLD
okay.
part is smaller than, I think, than the,
I know that when the PRC looked at your project, we did look at if you were to just take the R120 zone, because there was a conventional plan prepared for that in conjunction with the.
there was, yeah.
The conventional plan showed 33 or 34 units, which were permitted by code.
And that was before Dr. Howard had owned it?
Both when Mr. Glell owned it and when Dr. Howard
Okay.
owned it, we had to go
Got it.
back and verify that that was the acreage.
The number.
I think that 33 was, I actually think he's entitled to have 34 units, but they were looking at 33 or something.
Okay, all right.
And under the conventional plan, I think there's some, space that is not developable, so there's even more
Right, you
acreage
have to-
there
right,
than you would normally have.
You take that out and you calculate it based on the developable site itself.
Correct.
So,
And I can't remember, but I thought that the acreage above on the plateau area was part of that, but it was going to be deeded off to the county or some entity or open space. But I think that was actually included in the calculation, if I'm not mistaken, for the original Galal property.
okay.
Would they be individual sales, or are they still going to be a townhome?
Still
For
looking
lease.
for a townhome rental.
So they're still
development,
rentals?
yeah.
Individual lots, set up individual lots, but rental units.
Right.
Because if I recall correctly, there was the issue in and around homeowners association and the state regulations and things like that.
Right,
So-
right. We're not setting up a homeowners association
Right.
at this point. But the individual lots give us a number of benefits, and that, including the ones that Jack talked about last time about being able to separately meter the water, so we have less water consumption. And there's also another interesting feature of that is that it increases our warranties. So we actually get residential warranties for all the materials that we purchase if we do separate lots versus commercial warranties if you do.
Got it.
And then you would have common area around those separate lots that
There
your maintenance
are,
company would
right.
maintain.
And from the LaSalle district standpoint, Jim, we don't have the map here with us, but where is that divide line as it affects or potentially impacts this property?
The divide line is approximately behind 50 Wilbur Track Road, which was the old Pecora
Okay.
structure that
Structure
held
there.
the trucking company. And if you recall, both in the Howitt plan and also in the Galal plan, a portion of the apartment project fell within the R120 zone.
Right.
It went over that line.
That is correct, okay.
And we have talked to Dr. Howitt and to Hans about bringing
To
that
bring
back
that-
into the other area, which
Okay.
they were willing to do. But it did encroach into the R120 zone on the initial layout.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, so the potentially new piece of information for us this evening is the issue of, for now, taking the apartment piece off and pursuing the single-family unit only, the 33 single-family units only at this time. Not saying that the apartments go off, you know, in its entirety, but for the discussion this evening, looking at the single-family component versus the for rental component of the apartments.
Correct.
Okay. Kaz, anything else? I know you touched on the, you captured what the board was looking for DOT, and looking for something from them, talking a little bit about what they would consider for, or not consider for mitigation. So we talked about that traffic component. Anything else that, and I know that I'm actually with David Dunning from Chili. I think it's not next week, it's early the following week. And it indicated that I wanted to take a look at this while I was out there meeting with him on a couple of other matters. So it'll give me a chance to at least see that, see that site.
The staff is gonna go out next week to look at it. as
Oh,
well.
great, okay, okay.
It's the one that the
So
doctor mentioned
Yes.
last week.
Is it on Paul Road where you can
Yes.
see Wegmans from it?
That's right.
Does it say like Midland Management?
Yes.
Okay, I took a look at it this weekend,
Oh,
so.
What,
yeah.
did you have any impression?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? So certainly the component about the single family, that doesn't involve the town board, but would be a discussion with the planning board. So that's another piece that we would want to capture in a letter that we put out based on that information we got, Kaz. Okay. Other discussion at this
Tony,
time?
just if I can, just so I'm clear that going to the planning board because what is being proposed falls within the parameters of the existing zoning of that property?
Outside of the LaSalle's,
Right.
it falls
That's the
outside of the
issue.
LaSalle's landing, and it impacts that R120 property, and then
Right.
that piece of that area would be under the planning board jurisdiction
Right, so
versus
there's,
town board.
yeah, so there's no extra incentives or anything like that. It's just the property zoned R120. They're proposing to adhere within that zoning, and therefore the planning board would
Right.
take over in the review process of any proposal
Right.
that would come forward.
And then down the road, when and if something were to be proposed for the rest of this,
Right.
property, that would fall within the LaSalle's landing and, come back to us. And I think
Yeah.
in the meantime, as we spoke, there was discussion around the mixed use, component, and what does that look like on the broader LaSalle's
Yeah.
landing.
Okay.
And this would not be part of a potential mixed-use district?
The single family would not, that is correct.
Because that would have been my concern for the doctor, is if he ventures into something that, would be contrary to a mixed use, or whether he is, whether it's in his best interest to proceed with this now before a mixed use plan, would be the neighbor of this neighborhood, is put into effect. Whether that's in his best interest to do that without knowing what the plans are for adjacent areas.
well, I think you brought up a good point at the last meeting, though, about having a committee out there, and certainly, as you have in the past, you try to get the neighbors who live in close proximity to the mixed-use districts to be on those committees. I can't imagine the neighbors on Old Westfall Road or Parkview wanting to see, mixed-use development with commercial components to it coming up that hill closer to their homes. So, the comp plan calls for that area to stay as residential, single family, and
But I think what Paula may have been referring to is that what happens, of how it builds these single-family homes, and then the committee recommends, all this,
Yeah.
activity that may not
multiple
necessarily.
types of uses,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. Well, that's just something that comes out of it, and certainly, as we go through those processes, as we have in the past here, everybody has their say in the process. That's That's why we
Yeah,
have
I
public
guess, you know,
hearings.
it's kind of builder beware at this point. He certainly has a right to develop his
Sure.
property as it's currently zoned and to go through the process that, you know, with the
Right.
planning board, absolutely.
It might be a better situation because if there's more density at that intersection, there might be a willingness on the part of the state DOT to reconsider, you know, not having a traffic light there. I mean, if
True.
you're getting enough generated traffic, it's something that would push them to another level of thought. So,
Or some other alternative.
right,
Mhm.
right.
So, okay, all right. Have Jim tighten this letter up a little bit, add the information as it relates to the single-family component or the project, you know, as we take a look at that, the apartment in LaSalle's and then the single-family in the single-family zone. So, okay, good.
Yeah.
Anything
And
else?
if any board members have any comments, just please get them to me in the next day or so, and I'd be
Okay.
happy to incorporate.
Hans, any other comments or more specifically, any questions for the board at this point?
No?
Okay. Thank you for coming out on this cool Wednesday evening, and have the doctor send us a little bit of nice Florida weather if you wouldn't mind.
I'll put a good word in for
Put in
you.
a good word for that. So, okay, board. Anything else? Just to ask, maybe over the next couple of days, anything else that you'd like to have added to this draft? Let's get that to Jim. Jim, maybe we'll take the comments from tonight and anything else, and then maybe push that out to the board early next week for one last check, so then we can get that out to the doctor so that he's got that.
Sounds great.
Okay.
Thank
good,
you.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Have a
Eric.
good evening.
All right.
Okay, that was the only item that was before the board this evening, and if there is nothing else that will shut us down for the next 2 weeks, then we'll adjourn this meeting. We do have one legal matter to deal with in executive session, and then we'll get everyone home at an early hour tonight. So with that, we're officially adjourned at 7:22. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.